It's Jim White and Simon Jordan. We are live in talkSPORT, streaming live on YouTube and your smart TV. And of course, Thursday lunchtime being Thursday lunchtime, we shall now talk boxing for the next hour. He's been to Saudi Arabia. He's been to Qatar. He's been to Texas. He's been to Ghana in Africa. He's with us in studio this lunchtime. You're back, Spencer Oliver. Welcome back, Spence. How was Ghana?
Ghana was amazing. Amir Khan Promotions with Legacy Rise Promotions teamed up out there to put Ghana boxing back on the map, African boxing back on the map, and it was brilliant.
Yeah,
in so many ways, it really was. I mean, look, I first went there 31 years ago to turn professional. We went a full circle. I ended up back there after my career's finished. I met up with Azuma Nelson. We had a sit-down interview with Azuma Nelson. You can see that on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel. Also with Amir Khan as well.
Yeah.
The event was amazing. The fights were insane. I mean, all sorts of stuff happened out there, Chip. It was mad. It was rain pouring down, fighters getting knocked out, bouncing back up. It was a success. It was really good.
What were the crowds like?
There was a 2,000 capacity in the Bookham boxing arena. There was 11,000 people in there. To give you an idea, look, boxing, big time boxing being back there was a big thing. Azuma Nelson being a big part of that, and Amir Khan as well.
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua was over there. Had a good catch up with Anthony Joshua. It was really good. It was fantastic. Really enjoyed it.
I was there in the 90s in Ghana, Accra, Takoradi. Beautiful places, great people. And I'm constantly told if I go back now, you'll see such a difference in the country. Did you see a major difference?
Well, I was there in the 90s as well, 1994.
I saw it.
Yeah, and did I see much of a difference? Yeah, certain parts are built up more, like, you know, in the city centre, Accra, obviously. But when you go to the villages, and that's what I'm all about, really, and you go into these villages, and the culture, by the way, and the people are absolutely beautiful. But you go to those villages, and it is very much the same. When you went down to Bookham, Accra, you know, the poverty's rife out there, but the people are so beautiful, and it's it was great to go back.
They're so proud of their sportsmen, aren't they?
They really are.
Azuma Nelson, I remember that. Tony Yeboah, when I was there, they loved him.
Absolutely.
They're so proud of them.
Ike Quartey's another big name out there. Alfred Cote, the late, great Alfred Cote, where I learnt my trade from. You know, we turned pro together, and that was the part of me going back there and revisiting it. And it's a quick story. So Alfred Cote, a former world bantamweight champion who sadly passed away 5 years ago, had a seizure and passed away. I'm in Bookham Arena. I'm walking past, and I look round, and I spot a guy. I thought I saw a ghost because it was Alfred Cote. It wasn't. It was his son, who's now 25 years of age, who wasn't alive at around them times. So we had a great reunion. I was talking about his dad. He was telling me about his dad and what he was saying about me. And it was, it was lovely to see him.
Brilliant. I remember looking at Labadi Beach in Ghana.
That's where we was.
And I was sitting out looking over it, and this lad's walking along the beach with a Celtic shirt on. I couldn't believe it. It's incredible what goes on out there. It is a wonderful country. A lot to get through, Spencer. Chris Eubank Jr., we hear, will appear before the British Boxing Board of Control in July next month to answer questions about his use of a sauna before his fight against Conor Benn. He was cutting weight, obviously. The board have refused to speculate what punishment he might face if he's found to have broken their rules. He missed the weight. He was fined 375 grand, but was within the £10 rehydration limit on the morning of the fight. Before you come in on this, promoter Eddie Hearn was in breakfast this morning, and he was asked about this sauna situation and Eubank Jr.
I've got in trouble with the board before on my comments regarding a sauna several years ago. You know, maybe naivety on my part at the time, because the board don't allow use of the sauna. I think, to be honest with you, the board, who I think do a great job, have got to look at the modern day methods that fighters use to make weight, because you can't just be prehistoric and think that fighters don't cut weight. How do you think they're going to cut weight for a weigh-in? You know, there's kind of like a code where you're not allowed to talk about use of a sauna, and you're not supposed to use a sauna and, you know, and hot baths and stuff like that. But at the same time, they also know that fighters drop 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds, you know, in the final 24 hours of a fight. So, you know, Eubank's obviously put everything out on social media about how he made the weight.
Yeah.
I think one of those was using a sauna or sauna suit, and, you know, he'll have to go in before the board. It's happened to me before, like I said, about 7 or 8 years ago, when I was referring to a fighter that we represented. And, you know, I think, to be honest with you, the board need to get a little bit up to speed.
Is Eddie right, Spencer? Is he right, Simon? Does the board need to get up to speed here? Why not use a sauna?
Look, well, all fighters do it. That is a fact. When you get to a certain level, for all fighters cut weight. Now, look, because of those rules that were still in place when I was boxing back in the 90s, we used to, I stuck by those rules. So I'd train on the morning, like you'd be training with a black bin bag on, believe it or not, underneath your training clothes, and then after that, after you finish training, you'd sit in the corner of the ring. They'd wrap you up in blankets and sometimes put foil over you as well. So effectively like sitting in the sauna. But because you weren't allowed in the sauna, you used to go use that method. Yeah, they're being a bit prehistoric. I agree with Eddie in many ways, because fighters will do it. I think why they've had to bring it to light, because I believe that the board do know it's a rule that sort of like goes. But I think Chris Eubank Jr. stupidly has decided to post all that. And by posting that, the board have to take action. But it is something that maybe the board need to look at. I mean, how do you get around that? The board put that into place, by the way, to stop fighters like myself getting injured. And that is the facts of it, but the fighters still do it. And I think that's a big problem, Simon.
Well, dehydration is a massive issue. The big thing is about weight classes and making sure that people that are in these weight classes, it's slightly different. Chris Eubank was boiling himself down to a weight class that he's no longer really in anymore. And so there's an argument about that. But there's also an element of hypocrisy about what the board are taking. The board stopped Adam Azim fighting 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because they became aware that his opponent had been in the sauna.
Yeah.
So they stopped the fights. So why didn't they stop the Eubank-Ben fight?
That's a good question, isn't it? I mean, Azim's opponent...
I could answer that question
because of the fees.
Because of the money involved.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So my point is, where are we going with the hypocrisy of this argument then? If you stop Adam Azim's opponent from fighting Adam Azim because he used a sauna, why didn't you stop Chris Eubank Jr.? Of a high-profile fight that you were clearly visible of, because everyone was visible, everyone saw what Chris was doing.
Yeah.
So are you in the business of protecting the sport, or aren't you?
Well, the most important aspect of this is safety.
Yeah.
So the safety aspect here comes into they pulled the sauna use because of safety.
Yeah.
So they were right to do that, or were they?
No, they were right to do that because we're talking about the safety of fighters.
But you just called it prehistoric.
Yeah, no, because it is prehistoric. They need to re-look at it because the fighters are doing it anyway. And the board know the fighters are doing it, but because it's not put out to the public.
But the thing is, Jim, how do you police it? It's like tapping up rule in football. How are you going to police it? How are you going to police? If someone doesn't tell you that they've been in a sauna, how are they going to know that he has been in a sauna?
What was Eubank Jr. doing, Spencer, by posting it?
Great question. This is that's the murky bit.
Providing some cover for the fact if he got beat, he could tell people how.
He was presumably saying to the British Boxing Board of Control, "I'm doing this. What do you make of it?"
Yeah, no,
what are you going to do about it?
Because of the magnitude of the fight, he thought he wouldn't be punished. Because, like, look, it's a rule that has been around forever, but no one's really abided by it. It's one of those rules that's sort of like it's done behind closed doors a little bit, and no one. It is just that is the way that it is. I believe that Eubank Jr. posted that with a little bit of, if I get beat, I can say, look, this is what I was doing, struggling to make the weight. I'm in the sauna, then I'm getting in a sleeping bag, wrapping myself up because they're killing me to make this 160. So I understand that, but he probably didn't think the actions of the Boxing Board of Control were going to be, well, now you're going to have to come and answer to that.
But isn't it a fascinating debate when you sit there and everything's been made about the bravery of Chris Eubank Jr. and the dreadfulness of the situation of boiling himself down and the unfairness of the rehydration clause that he wasn't allowed. But he's the one that wanted it because he got paid £1 million for that. They gave him an additional £1 million for the rehydration clause being accepted in the contract. He didn't have to have that £1 million. He could have turned it down and put his safety at the front of it.
Yeah.
So where does the British Boxing Board of Control step in to intercede, and where does personal autonomy become the fundamental reaction?
What are they going to do? What are they going to punish him? How are they going to punish him?
I don't really know if that is the answer.
They're going to give £100
I mean,
fine.
yeah, what are they going to do?
He got £10 million out of the fight. He don't care, does he?
I mean, look, the guy's missed the weight by 0.5 of a pound, which is like half an ounce, isn't it? And they fined him £375,000. But as Simon highlighted there, he got £1 million anyway for agreeing to put the rehydration clause in.
What they fined him £100,000 for slapping an egg in Conor Benn's face. So what does he care?
Yeah.
The hype that was around this fight and the level of return that he got as a result of this fight and all the notoriety around it, it will dwarf these silly little fines.
Sure.
What the British Boxing Board of Control needed to decide is how they want to police the sport properly.
So can they make any punishment stick here?
Well, they probably will, just because they've got to show face, and they say this is our rules and this is what it is, and whether they give him a 50 grand fine or whatever it is, he's going to go, no problem, that's what it is. I just won't do it in front of the cameras next time. I mean, we're going to get the fight again, aren't we? That fight happens, the rematch happens again,
September.
And it's going to be at the same weight. So, what would be different in Chris Eubank Jr.'s preparations from the last time to this time? It's going to be the same, isn't it?
And there's going to be a rematch, isn't there?
There's going to be a rematch. I believe September the 27th is the date that's being talked about.
Did they confirm it this morning? He confirmed it this morning.
Yeah.
They're working towards that day.
Yeah, there you go. So,
Are you having that now?
Am I having it?
Will you go to the fight this time?
Not particularly, no. I mean, everyone...
Oh, come on, you got to come to that.
Simon,
I mean,
after
the
what
last
you saw
one
the
was
last
what we
time,
saw
yeah.
there. Come on.
Well, again, you guys can like what you like. I thought it was a barroom brawl. I didn't think it was particularly great. You guys did, and you all get caught up in it, and I have to go along with it. If I don't go along with it, I'm a miserable sod. But I don't. I think it was okay.
See, the problem we got here is that Simon doesn't use regular pubs, and we do, and we like seeing those fights from time to time out on the cobbles, and that's pretty much what we got inside the ropes. And look, the guys put everything on the line in there. You got to appreciate, the guts, the determination, the grit, and all of that. I mean,
and well done
for
to
me,
them.
ticking all the boxes.
But I don't think we need to see it again. I accept the fact that it was a better fight than perhaps a lot of people anticipated it might have been. I always thought Conor Benn was going to put up a decent fight anyway.
Yeah.
So we're seeing it again for what reason? Why are we seeing it again? Because they're going to get paid an enormous amount of money for it. That's it.
Do you think we'll see Eubank Jr. coming out of Sauna again?
I just think he does it behind closed doors next time. Like Simon says, right, and this is a fact. He goes like, if they don't see it and it's happening, but there's no case, is there? So, yeah, look, however Chris decides to make the weight, we know he's tight at that weight, and he will make that weight.
Well, the British Boxing Board of Control refused to speculate what punishment Eubank Jr. will face if he's found to have broken the rules, but he posted it on social media. So they know what they're getting into. We'll see if they can give us an early answer on that before they meet with Eubank Jr. Stay with us. Spencer with us live this Thursday lunchtime. Now then, this Saturday, the unbeaten British Olympic gold medalist Galal Yafai faces seasoned Mexican Francisco Rodriguez Jr. for the WBC Interim World Flyweight title, live only in DAZN. Sign up at DAZN.com/boxing. That is coming your way. Thereafter, on the 5th of July, Manchester plays host to a bumper British domestic clash between Jack Catterall and Harlem Eubank. Of course, who is Harlem? He is cousin of Chris Eubank Jr. I'm delighted to say, with just days, really, a few weeks, really, between now and then, Harlem Eubank, unbeaten British welterweight, joins us live with Simon and Spencer. Harlem, good afternoon. How are you?
Afternoon, I'm very well. Thanks. How are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Jack Catterall very much on the horizon. You're unbeaten. How are you feeling about it?
I feel great. Preparation, we're in full flow. Been going to work with my coach, Charlie Beat. We've been putting in the work for years behind the scenes, 11 years in the game. And it's all building to this kind of occasion. We're ready to go and show the world where we're at.
I was going to ask you before Spencer comes in, Harlem. Do you feel, mate, you're beginning to get the recognition you deserve at last? Everybody talks about Chris, and before that, everybody spoke about Chris Eubank Sr. But now you're in the scene. Are you being properly and suitably recognised now?
Yeah, I think it just takes these big fights, these big occasions, and the type of performances that I've been putting in. And people are starting to distinguish them performances, and it takes time. It's a big it's big footsteps to follow. It was for Chris Eubank Jr.
Yeah,
with everything that Senior achieved in the sport, and now I've got both of them at the very pinnacle of the sport, and it's great to have them there. That the name is being held very, very high right now in boxing, and I'm ready to go in there at world level against a top operating Catterall and prove that I'm ready to fight at the top of the sport.
It is very much a coming of age fight for you, isn't it, Harlem? This one is a massive step up. Tyrone McKenna last time, you won that one in the 10th round. That was a great performance. McKenna, a very, very tough guy, very durable, and you proved that you could adapt in a fight, and you've done the right things necessary to win that contest. But this is another step up now, a huge level. This takes you onto the world stage, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly that. Every time I step up, I aim to go in there and put on a display. When I stepped up to European level against two-time European former champion Timo Schwarzkopf, I'm the only man to stop him. So when I go into these fights where, it's new, it's new territory, I come in to prove a point and I come in to deliver. And that's what I'm going to do on July 5th.
Catterall is a very tricky customer. Look, he's only got 2 defeats on his record. One of them was a very controversial one against Josh Taylor. And then last time out against Arnold Barboza, there was an argument there. It could have gone either way. So, very tough guy. How do you prepare for that?
I prepare by being the best version of myself. We know that Jack Catterall is going to be on his A game. This is a guy that's been waiting for his world title opportunity. He fell short by a narrow margin last time, and because of that, he took himself out to America. We know that he's more prepared now than he's ever been for a fight, for a big fight. And we know we're getting the best version of him. So I know all I need to do on the night is bring the best version of myself, and we're ready to go in there and make a big splash.
Simon, I don't know about you, the very thought of Harlem getting in with Jack Catterall, I buy into it. I think it could be a great encounter, this.
Yeah, I mean potentially. Obviously, Harlem, are you fighting at 147? Is that what he's fighting at?
147 pounds, that's right.
Why is he stepping up in weight classes?
Did last time.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're talking about myself or Jack Catterall?
Yeah, I'm just curious to see. Obviously Jack fights at 140, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think a lot of the opportunity presented is now at 147 pounds. A lot of the 140 fighters have recently moved up, and I think Jack has seen that and wants to go up against the best at 147 pounds as well. It's the best division. It's the hottest division in the sport right now, and that attracts fighters to go up there and compete at the highest level.
What challenges does he present for you? Ultimately, we've seen Jack, as Spence alludes to, the robbery of the first fight against Josh Taylor, the pretty much dismantling of Josh Taylor, the beating of Jorge Linares, the beating of Regis Progress. These are all world-level operators. So What sort of challenge does it present for you, Harlem?
The challenge it presents is we're going in there against the guy that should have been undisputed champion of the world.
That's right.
That's the type of challenge that we're prepared for. That's the type of guy that we wanted. I want to fight the best. And we believe that Jack Catterall is, one of the best they have, at Matchroom.
What does it open for you, Harlem? What does it open for you? The Eubank name is a big name. It sells. Part of the reason why Jack Catterall will take this fight is because of the money side of it as well. But what sort of opportunity does it present for you? You're 31 years of age now. You seem to be a little bit of a secret in terms of your boxing career, irrespective of this huge name that's attached to you. So what does this fight and the potential victory open the door for you to do next?
It opens the door to go and fight the best guys in the world. And them guys are over in the US. The top guys over there at 147 pounds. The world champions. After this fight, I could be in the shortlist of guys that are ready to fight for a world title. This opens the door to my world title dreams, and that's why I came into the sport, coming in to fight the best. And this fight opens all the doors for me to fight the best fighters in the world. Does
that mean Conor Benn? Is that part of your thinking?
I don't think he's one of the best in the world. I don't think he's proven that. I think this opens the door for me to fight the best in the world. So Jack Catterall has achieved, as you've just said, the type of guys he's been in there with. This guy is the best they have. This guy is far better than Conor Benn. But this is the fight that opens the doors for me to fight the best in the world, and that's world title opportunity.
Just quickly, sorry, Jim. Your uncle Chris Eubank Sr. is heavily involved in your career now. He's guiding your career. He's shown a massive appetite for that Conor Benn fight. Whether that materialises or not, we'll have to wait and see. But talk to us a little bit about that role that Chris Eubank Sr. is playing in your career. Is it a day-to-day thing? Tell us a little bit about that.
My uncle, he's always been there to guide and steer me. And when my father passed not too long ago, Simon Eubank is Chris's older brother. He took more of a hands-on role in my career, and you know, was a lot closer to me, and kind of took on that guiding role. But he's always been there to provide, you know, wisdom and advice and try and steer me. But he really took on that role, you know, after my father passed. And yeah, he's one of the guys that 5 fights ago was telling me I'm ready to become a world champion. And again, you know, the public might not see that until I'm in a fight like this against a guy that is of, you know, undisputed world champion credibility. But this is the fight where you're going to see it, and this is the fight that's going to open the doors to the best guys in the world now.
We're looking forward immensely to the fight that you're going to have with Catrol, Harlem. Before you leave us, and I know you can answer this for me, Chris Eubank Jr., we were talking about him earlier on. We know he's got to appear before the British Boxing Board of Control to answer questions about his use of a sauna before the fight with Conor Benn. Now, Chris Eubank Jr., being Chris Eubank Jr., will be able to cope with that, no matter if he's sat in front of them, and will decide what he wants to say. What about this use of a sauna before fight to cut weight? Where do you stand on it, Harlem?
Where do I stand on it? I think every fighter uses methods to cut weight before a weigh-in. Just as, you know, it's well documented that the other side also, you know, use some kind of mechanism, you know, which was posted to cut weight. But I don't know why, you know, Chris Eubank Jr. has been vilified at every single angle. You know, everything he's had to overcome in the build-up, you know, they tried everything, you know, and you know, couldn't get him on his worst day. So I don't know why, you know, there's been an assault to try and, you know, fine him for 0.01 of a pound, and, you know, and now he's using a sauna suit. It's not even a sauna. It's a, it looked like a heated blanket. Yeah, you know, there's no need for it at all. He went in there, drained, depleted, and still came out on top by 4 clear rounds. And, you know, there's no need to try and vilify him for using a blanket to cut some pounds.
Okay, Harlem, listen, thanks for joining us. Good luck in the 5th of July.
Thank you very much.
Harlem Eubank with us live this Thursday lunchtime at 12:30. It's a busy little studio this lunchtime because Simon is alongside me as always, and with us on a Thursday is Spencer Oliver, and I'm delighted to say you could hear his dulcet tones in the background. That's fine by me. Top boxing trainer Adam Booth joins us live wearing a Cassius Clay The Greatest t-shirt. If you're watching on YouTube and your smart TV, you can see Adam say, well, he was the greatest, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Cassius Clay, a.k.a. Muhammad Ali. How are you, Adam?
I'm good. I'm trying to get my composure back because Simon's just rattled me. So.
This is what he does to live guests.
Yeah, literally, you knew that you were going on here 2 seconds over.
Yeah. One thing I'm going to ask you, 2 massive cards coming up in the next 60 days. Wembley, of course, July the 19th. We know about Dubois, Usyk, the 2 of them go again. We'll get to that. And shortly after that, on the 16th of August, Moses Itauma over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, goes in against Dillian White. We'll get to that. Also on the card, former super featherweight world champion Anthony Kakachi takes on the American Raymond Ford. Adam's fighter, David Adeleye, he of the great smile and punch power, goes in against Croatia's Filip Hrgović. How is he and how are the preparations going?
Preparations have started in earnest. We've been ticking over for a couple of weeks because we thought we had a date for the Jamie TKV rematch. And now it's Filip. We've started with a bit more acceleration.
Right. Why is it Hrgović and not the rematch with Jamie TKV?
For who? For us?
For both. Because we thought that was the logical next step after the first fight.
The rematch you thought was a
right.
Yeah, and it was until this opportunity came. And this is the gateway fight for David to crash into the elite level of the heavyweight division. A rematch with Jamie TKV isn't. That rematch was good for us because it gave me a chance and David a chance for him to go and do it how he should have done it the first time round. But when you get an opportunity to fight someone who's ranked number 2 in the WBO and in the top 5 in 2 of the other 3 governing bodies, who's a proven world level heavyweight, and at the age of 28, and you're full of confidence and you've got punch power and personality, and you get a chance to take a fight like that, it'd be crazy not to take it. That's why we took it.
The first fight with Jamie TKV ended controversially, didn't it?
It stank and then ended controversially. It wasn't a good fight. It was a poor performance for David. He started so slowly for 3 rounds. We know why.
Why?
Complacency. He knew that he could hurt him, and he knew he couldn't be hurt. And it wasn't enough to provoke him into setting his own standard in the first couple of rounds. And that was my disappointment. And he understands it. He's taking that criticism like a big boy. So the plan was to do the job properly second time round until this opportunity.
But the referee called break, and then David smacked him, and down he went.
Oh, I mean, there's no point in rehashing that story because the referee called break and Jamie clocked David before. It's just that David was able to take the shot, and when the favour got returned, Jamie wasn't. But that's for us, that's in the past now. It's irrelevant because he's got Filip Hrgović, and that is a much bigger challenge, much sterner test with much bigger rewards.
It's a significant step up, Filip Hrgović. What have you learned from that last fight against Jamie TKV, where you go like, look, you knew what your fighter had to do. He wasn't doing it. But what have you learned from that to prepare him for a fight like this? Because this puts him on the world stage.
Well, I'm a firm believer that the enemy of ability is complacency. When you have so much confidence in your ability, the parallel to that is that you do risk complacency. And that certainly plays out in David. It plays out in David in sparring sessions as well. And it's something I've said to him from the very start. So the TKV fight, which is another exclamation mark for me, you can't be complacent. I've said to David, the Filip Hrgović fight is a fight you can win, but it's a fight you can lose. Do the job right, you win, and you go to that whole new level. You do the job wrong, you lose. That's it. And it's very simple. And he seems to be thriving under that type of pressure and need to prove himself.
Is it a big thing to do, and is it a hard thing to do, drive complacency out of a fighter?
Well, it's human nature, isn't it? You know, there's a rare.
I'm thinking of any sport, Simon.
There's a rare breed where you get talented individuals
Yeah.
that strive constantly. You know, human nature is we like to sit back on our laurels. We don't want to have to strive.
Isn't
every
that
day.
part of your job, though? Did you not smell
Yes.
that? Did you not smell that coming into that week?
On the Jamie TKV fight?
Yeah.
No, I smelt it on a daily basis.
Right.
And I'm like a jockey. I'm making sure it's not there. And the training had gone really well. But I don't want to get too caught up on it because essentially when you strip it down, he started slowly.
Yeah.
Right? He started slowly for 3 rounds. That was it. And that's what allowed Jamie the space and the time to show off what he was doing.
What are you getting with Hrgović now? You got Hrgović that put up a decent performance against Daniel Dubois, then got beaten up in the end. You've seen him beat Joe Joyce. What Hrgović are you getting now?
From what so I've known Filip since he was a teenager, since he was coming to the gym and sparring with David Hay, and I took the spar when he sparred with Deontay Wilder, so I know what Filip Hrgović is. He's fearless, he's durable. I'm not going to talk about his weaknesses, but he's got decent punch power, a very, very specific boxing rhythm, and a proven ability at the highest level as an amateur, and getting into the high level of the pro. Now, in his pro career, it's almost like he never took that step up where he looked like he was going to fulfill his potential. He was still the same Filip over and over again. In the Daniel fight, he started well. He caught Daniel with 3,061 twos in the first round and looked comfortable on his way to victory. But Daniel had evolved, became more resilient, took the shots and kept going. Filip got tired. And that's a knock on Filip, that he does get tired in some of his fights. I expect the win over Joe Joyce, where he proved that he could maintain it for the distance under that type of pressure, I think that would have improved his conditioning because Joe's relentless and Joe's your worst nightmare. If you can't hurt him, you're in for a hard night's work. But Filip was comfortable with that hard night's work. David Adeleye, completely different style. It's not just about pressure and volume, it's about other assets. And that's why I'm excited about the fight.
Do you feel that Philip Hrgović is in that twilight of his career, like all those top heavyweights now? Do you feel like it's timing? Do you feel like it's timing? Because boxing is a lot about timing. And David Adeleye is very much unproven at his level. Philip is proven, and as you say, you knew him since he was a kid. We know it's going to be a hard fight. The best Philip Hrgović turns up, it's going to be a tough night. So it is timing. It must be a calculated gamble from your side to take the fight, even if you get the opportunity.
Every fight is risk over gain. Every fight is risk over gain, whether that gain is financial or status or where it gets you to. No, I don't think Philip is on the downslide. I think Philip is actually, his win over Joe has probably pushed the doubt away that he got because he got tired against Daniel. And he's only 31, right? That's not old for a heavyweight that hasn't taken a lot of stick with all of that pedigree and all of that experience. So no, he's absolutely not. For me, this is it's about matchup of styles, because styles make fights, right? And it's styles and understanding styles and where the jeopardy is or where the opportunity is against a certain style. And that's what gets me up in the morning, taking fights that not only can you lose, but a lot of people don't think you're going to win.
I think that night, Adam, on the 16th of August, all eyes are going to be on that bill. It's a cracker, and Moses Itauma going in against Dillian Whyte in Saudi as well. Talk about that, talk about a bunch of things after this. It is Thursday lunchtime. Adam Booth, top boxing trainer, in alongside Spencer, myself, and Simon Jordan, as we finish our Thursday show with a spot of boxing, as we always do. So much coming up. I mean, where do we start? Dubois, I know, goes in against Usyk again. But with Adam here, and with Saudi in mind again, and this one's in Saudi, Moses Itauma up against Dillian Whyte. What have we got? What does the world of boxing have in Moses Itauma, Adam?
A young prospect in the heavyweight division that's fearless and talented and has ticked all the boxes every step of the way up until now. If anyone deserves to be called the next big thing in the heavyweight division, having not gone through the big tests, it's Moses Itauma. I like the way he carries himself. I like the way he fights. I like his energy, his manner, how he talks. Everything about him ticks the boxes. There's still a long way to go, and we know that there are so many cracks on that journey, but it'll be interesting to see.
It's great matchmaking, though, isn't it, from Moses' side? Like, this is, Dillian Whyte has been there and knocking around the top for a few years now. Timing, as we talked about earlier in the show, is everything, and I just think that it is great matchmaking for a young prospect like this.
Yeah, you've got to be careful saying that about Dillian, because Dillian's
he's dangerous.
Wild. He's
absolutely
wild. And he can whack, and he will certainly give Moses Itauma something that Moses has never come across yet in a fight.
That's what I'm saying. Great matchmaking, because we find out if this young man can step up to another level.
I think what Moses seems to have the emotional and mental stability to be able to cope with, to match up with the type of energy that Dillian's going to bring.
Adam, we want a coach's perspective on this. We were talking about Chris Eubank Jr. earlier on, and now he has an appointment with the British Boxing Board of Control next month. Sauna Gate. Where do you stand on the use of a sauna to cut weight? It's gone on forever and a day, has it not?
Yes.
And now he's got to explain himself. Well, maybe a bit of explaining to do to get out of being hit in the pocket again.
He posted publicly what a high percentage of fighters and coaches do and have done for decades and decades. Standard practice, not just in boxing, in UFC. Go and look at the Conor McGregor documentary, and you see how he made weight. That's the most brutal weight making I've ever seen. And then how he rehydrated after. So
you're saying it's gone on forever, and the British Boxing Board of Control know about it?
No, they say we don't approve it, and we don't agree with it, and we don't want you to do it. That's what they say.
So what's the point of that?
Well, I guess from their position, if you go back to when you had the Michael Watson scenario, and the Board of Control, I think, were found to be at fault, and so since then they've made sure that their first remit is being as cautious and as medically sound and safe as possible. So by saying don't do that, they're expressing their medical safety, and it will be a bit of self-preservation and posturing by the board, where they have to say, well, you've said this, you've shown this publicly, you now got to come and explain it. But I think from Eubank Jr. it could have been a bit of a cunning and crafty move on his behalf, because if he knew he was struggling to make the weight, and he knew there was going to be a rematch, and he'd have to go through all this again, and he can't pull out of it because he signed the contract. If he gets the board to pipe up and say, well, we're not going to allow that again, you can't make this weight. We won't approve the fight at this weight. He's done a smart move, and he can get the rematch possibly without that weight restriction.
Do you approve of the rule, or is it outdated?
What rule?
Well, this unwritten rule: don't use the sauna to cut weight.
You don't need to use saunas. If you do it right, you don't need to use saunas.
Listen, I think that the controversy surrounding all this, by the way, is like I was a fighter that got injured like Michael Watson, but I never used the saunas because we wasn't allowed to use saunas. So I done it the other way, where we weighed in in the morning. You're a couple of pounds over. I'm training with sweatsuits on, like we used to all put on the black bags and all that. They never even had sweatsuits then. Your black bags on, training for an hour to drop like a pound, and it just wouldn't come off. So you'd sit in the corner of the ring, wrapped in foil, wrapped in blankets. There's an argument that that's more dangerous because of what you're taking out of your body just before, as opposed to getting in the sauna, because fighters are going to do it. Adam, you know what it's like. All fighters do it. It's an unwritten rule that fighters have to cut weight, a substantial amount of weight. And whatever that means, by any means, with the last 24 hours to go, you have to do it. Now, I stuck to the rules, and it didn't work for me training and sweating my backside off doing it that way. So... is the sauna a bad thing? Is it, is it a better way? That's the argument.
Well, what's likely to happen when Eubank Jr. goes in front of the British Board of Control? Second guess it for me, Adam.
Okay. Eubank Jr. is a very cunning and intelligent and articulate fighter. And if he has an ulterior agenda to have the rematch, but more under his terms, then he'll say what he thinks he needs to say to get the board to do what he wants them to do.
So there's a bit to go.
You're asking me to speculate. It's only my opinion.
No, I'm with you on that. I understand what you're saying.
It's pretty good, to be fair.
There are legs in this story yet.
I think so.
Yeah.
But again, right, rehydration clauses, I don't like them. What we're talking about when we talk about use of saunas and making weight, we're talking about hydration levels, right? Because we are 68, 70% water. And you lose water to get down to a weight to then put the water back on. And you can do it to quite a drastic percentage in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And rehydrate in a healthy way. You don't need to necessarily be physically active to sweat it out. You don't need to use a sauna. There are more scientific ways. You look at what you're eating, the fiber content, the sodium content, and that's going to make you shed water over the first 2 or 3 days. Sensible, safe ways to do it.
Sure.
Rather than just saying you can't use saunas, don't do that. And
right.
We're going to do these check weigh-ins 3 days before. I don't think that's the solution. I think the solution is educating the coaches and the fighters of the modern day scientific way to lose the fluid and rehydrate it.
Something's going to give here, isn't it? Something's going to change. I want to finish today with this. You guys, the fighters obviously are in the spotlight when they fight, and we watch their every move. You guys in the corner, we watch your every move. And we listen to you guys. A lot of the time these days, let's listen to the corner men. Let's hear what trainer Adam Booth is saying to his fighter. Simon and Spencer were joined this week by the trainer Ben Davison, Adam, on Talk Boxing. Simon put it to Ben, regards his instructions to Anthony Joshua, to roll the dice against Dubois before he got knocked out. And that corner advice was criticised at the time from fellow corner trainer Shane McGuigan. This is Ben Davison. Have a listen.
Roll the dice is like, that was something that he'd worked on throughout camp. Double jab, bring it up the middle. Right. Because against Hrgovic, he was, again, but so often getting... Hold on, let me finish, sorry.
Yeah, go on.
He was regularly getting underneath Hrgovic's right hand. Hrgovic then started to throw an uppercut, but wasn't bringing his feet in to be close enough to deliver the shot. What we meant was, that's something you've worked on, you haven't thrown it once in the fight. Commit to it. Roll the dice in a sense that he's going to duck underneath it. That's what we meant. However, I totally respect. You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. Maybe I was wrong.
That was Ben Davison. What does roll the dice mean to you, Adam?
Take a chance. You roll the dice, you're gambling.
Yeah.
So that's what that means to me.
Go all in. It's basically when you say roll the dice. When you say roll the dice to a fighter, it generally means you got to go. You got to go for it. That is the terminology.
Rolling the dice is a gambling action, isn't it? So if you say roll the dice, it means take a gamble. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a reckless thing. It all depends on what's gone on in the weeks of preparation. If that like I use phrases in training. I never prescribe punches to any of my fighters. I think if you have to prescribe the punches, you're working with a limited fighter. I say short phrases or sounds that then trigger a sequence of movements or reactions or a process.
Like
rather
what?
than individual. Okay, make him show. What would that mean? If I say make him show, for some of my fighters, it means sit slightly more side on at a slightly longer distance and use your twitchy little feints to make him show what he's got in his mind. Right? You need to make him show what he's thinking, because if you can make him show what he's thinking, you're going to psychologically make him expose himself. So there's lots of little phrases, and you know, Teddy Atlas saying we're firefighters.
Yeah.
That's an emotional charge for Tim Bradley. Was it Tim Bradley in the corner to get him going and put some emotional energy into the work he's doing?
There's triggers. There's triggers.
Triggers.
You can't paraphrase. You can't just pick out all. He said roll the dice. That means take gamble, because AJ was struggling. He wasn't performing. He'd been hurt and he'd been dropped. And it's almost like sometimes you get to a point in a fight as a coach where you think, right, nothing's working. Listen, it's not working. You're just going to have to try and stick it on him. And that's what some coaches say, stick it on him. That means just get inside and try and have a tear up with him. So roll the dice might have been a strategic way of saying, and I think I heard him say double jab,
Right
bring
hand.
it up the middle.
Yeah.
But for me, the only thing I hear sounds like a right uppercut from long range. And I always call a right uppercut from long range the suicide shot. And there's so many good fighters that have been put over because they look for an uppercut, which is a real short range shot from a long range distance behind a jab. It can pay off, but there's a lot of jeopardy in that punch as well. So maybe that's the roll of dice.
It's Russian roulette. You throw an
I get it.
uppercut
I
from
get it.
outside, chin comes up in the air.
Adam, we are virtually out of time. If I was your fighter, the phrase I would like you to use on my behalf would be throw in the towel, if you don't mind. Brilliant as always. Adam, great having you on board.
Thank you.
You're right, Simon. This man can talk. What did he say to you when you walked in here?
I'm just glad he shut up the entire interview. I'm going to ask you.
Unusual for him. Spencer, brilliant as always.
Thank you so much.
10 o'clock, I'll be at Ascot tomorrow, and so will you if you join us. Hope to hear from you then. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver, Adam Booth. We're live this lunchtime on talkSPORT.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.